random blanket.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Come on in. I'm so excited for tonight's conversation. As you are coming in, I want you all just to know the format. I love the back decor. I see you getting it together.
I know. I'm like, you came prepared and I'm working on the spot.
It's all good. Thank you all for being on. It is now time for the front row. As you all have seen, the last few months, we've had the honor of just interviewing so many amazing authors, not only from Chicago, but just around the globe. And tonight we have none less but the amazing Junauda Petrus. I'm going to get this right. I practiced it. Junauda Petrus Nasa.
Yeah, good job.
Awesome.
It's like Petrus, Tetris, NASA. Like
I know. You know, it is so funny because I always the same with me being Jarima Gore. Everybody's like, "How you say it?" Like,
oh, your name's so pretty. I love that because it makes you think like dreamer, like a dreamer.
Yeah.
A dreamer. You know, I love it.
I love it. Well, I'm so excited for tonight's conversation, you all. As we've been doing this series, it's just really about bringing these amazing literary writers to your front room and allowing you to ask questions and learn more about them, and then also having authors and people who are watching who are aspiring to be in the field and just want to learn more about those who are actively doing the work. And so tonight, if you have any questions, comments, put them in the chat. We'll show them. We are still doing our book raffle, so as we're going throughout, I will put it in the chat for you to be able to enter. And we will then reach out to you if you have won or you have an opportunity to get this lovely copy of Ms. Junauda's book, which we will talk about this evening. So as we're getting started, I'm going to start with, I love the beginning. I love allowing our guests to kind of give their own intro. So we would love to hear, Ms. Junauda, the beginning. Like how did you get to be the dope being that you are today?
Thank you for saying I'm a dope being.
You are.
And I think it wasn't easy, but it was irresistible. The journey to being myself, but it wasn't easy. I think like it's, we often live in, realities, whether it's the people closest to us or the fact that we live in our, this very United States of America. As a young Black girl, as a young Black queer girl, I think there was a lot of things that I just didn't see myself in the world happy as far as representation. So I do feel like, I started a lot of my kind of youth, just like using art, using writing, using poetry, using dance to really just like nurture sadness and having the blues and, being kind of like an emotional kid. That, had a lot of stuff going on around in my family. And then I don't know, I feel like as an artist, I kind of set out not feeling like I could be an artist, like I really felt like, oh, well, people who are artists are like geniuses, like Beyonce. And, you just kind of feel like it's the people who just sort of seem to have whatever it is that I said I didn't have. Like, I feel like there's so much space in the world for so many types of people and types of spirits. So I actually was a circus artist,
Really?
and like studied circus. It was like
what performance. What you doing circus?
In New York, I studied circus, and I also did performance art, like utilizing aerial arts. And I like fell in love with aerial when I was living in New York, and I was doing youth work, and I was writing poetry and taking dance classes, but doing aerial and circus arts actually really delved me into the place of talking around Black narrative, and like, what are the stories that Black bodies tell when we're flying in the sky? They're different stories than white people, for example. And, I started doing a lot of theater. I started writing theater with circus arts in it. I started doing puppet parade shows in Minnesota. I started doing like performance art. I started doing, I did filmmaking.
Yeah.
And then essentially this book idea came to me. The book that, we're talking about today, The Stars and the Blackness Between Them. And it just was like a story that wouldn't leave. And I didn't want it to leave. I wanted to know more about it. So yeah, so I kind of like to share, you know, I mean, and I'm glad you asked because
Yeah.
I think like as an artist, I always thought like, oh yeah, you are like a genius at a young age and you continue to perfect this thing and don't realize that there's so much life is art. Like Maya
Yeah.
Angelou was an artist
Yeah.
because her life was art. And I think a lot of us live artful lives, like your beautiful locks, your beautiful lipstick, for example. Like that's artistry, you know? So yes, you
I,
know.
I love it. And I
Okay.
think even as you're saying, like just showing the like how all of art is authentic, right? It's not something I think a lot of times, like you said, we have this status quo. And that's what I love. Because again, like I'm like, oh, let me prepare for this interview. And just every time I hear you speak, it's just about embracing self and the fullness of that and just understanding that it comes, there's no one size fit all, you know, and we actually do a
Yeah.
disservice to the world when we are trying to replicate something else because there's only one you, right? It's only one thing that you bring. And just as you spoke to, and that's why I love that you were like, I'm gonna do this interview because I believe that every author I've written to, I've talked with, has written to an audience that was desperately looking for them, right? You know, even as I, you know, I interviewed a previous artist, he was like, I did it because I have young Black boys and we couldn't find boys a book that represented my sons. You know what I'm saying? So there's an audience that's looking for
So
that. And
true.
so that was his way of becoming the answer to that solution. I think the same for your text. Like there's an audience that's like, this is the story that no one ever wants to tell. I'm so glad she's telling our story, you know? And so my question then leads to when did you start writing? Not necessarily even just this book, but did you feel as if like, man, I mean, yes, when did you start writing the book? But then also, when did you start feeling like, man, this is how I'm going to express myself? You talked about dance and circus. When did picking up a pen become being the thing to do, you know?
Yeah, I mean, from a young age, I did a lot of journaling and I did a lot of emotional poetry. Shout out to all the Black girls in the hood writing poetry to themselves
Right.
because they got feelings. Just kidding.
It ain't no books. I know.
Right. It's so true. I feel like there's so many Black women who I was cool with from back in the day, and we were just like some poetry writing little girls. But yeah, so that was like really like journaling and poetry. And then I think I started doing a couple of essays like in my late 20s. So I'm like I turned 40 next year. So, you know, I kind of hadn't written any fiction. So I feel like when I shifted to fiction, it was when I did playwriting. I wrote a play called There Are Other Worlds that was a circus show talking about a mom who was on death row. For, you know, committing a crime to, you know, in defense of her children. And she was a Black Panther. And I really wanted to tell that show through circus because I love circus, you know, and I feel like the spectacle of circus often is telling kind of like, you know, it's just kind of showing aesthetic or, you know, but to really like be like, what do we tell these difficult and layered Black stories, but tell it through something so whimsical and caring and careful, you know, circus is so careful. So I had all these Black women who, you know, I worked with to like study circus. Like a lot of them had never done it before. A majority of us have had family members who've been incarcerated, and a lot of us, you know, related to the content. And I certainly am in the lineage of like Ntozake Shange, Lori Carlos, Alice Walker, Toni Morrison, June Jordan, Octavia Butler. There's just countless like Black feminist writers, experimental writers, and creatives that like really Maya Angelou, who just taught me that it's important to write down my life and my thoughts and my feelings. So yeah, so I think like that also shifted into me doing some more playwriting and some filmmaking and some screenwriting, but like for experimental things I would do. And then this book, like I literally, it was like 2015. Oh, gosh, who was murdered that year by the police?
Isn't that so sad, right?
I know, like, yeah, because it's like that's how a lot of my art gets marked. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, what was I like kind of responding to? So like anyhow, it was 2015, so that was like Jamar Clark, which was happened locally in Minneapolis. And Michael Brown had happened the year before. So yeah, I just had a story about a kid who had a serious life-threatening illness, and this man who's on death row, and they're both Black, and they're both living into Black existentiality through, you know, the sort of relationships they have with life. And it was really beautiful to write this book, and also the most like long, you know, form thing I've ever written, you know, so that was you know, triumph for sure.
Yeah. So what are the inspirations behind the stories you write? So I know that I just hear a common theme of being able to use art in a way to tell stories that maybe aren't being put out there, and also being able to really show the layers of Blackness. But what would you say are the inspirations, one, for you even seeing the freedom in doing that, but then also what inspires maybe the topics in which you write?
I think I think the things I'm curious about, the things I love to ponder, you know, I love anything having to do with like the cosmos. I love writing about space. I love writing about Black people in nature, and I love kind of like sexy, sensual. Like I always loved romance as a young person. I was like digging up in books looking for the steamy scene.
Right.
So I feel like, you know, in writing, you know, similar to what you're saying before, Jarima, it's like, yeah, these things that actually, you know, I so desperately wanted to read. Like I wanted to read about Black girls getting it on, you know, I wanted to read about, you know, Black girls saving the day, saving each other. I wanted to, I was always a very like spiritual seeking being. You know, like as a young person, I just wanted to know the mysteries of existence. So I feel like all of those are things that, you know, from a young age, I wanted to know about African spirituality and African, you know, history, and around like, you know, the stories of our ancestors. So a lot of my writing is around like listening to the ancestors and listening to the stories. Because I mean, how many white romances do we know? How many have we read? You know what I mean? How many, you know, stories have you read that made Black people decide story, unless you're reading like, you know, Alice Walker, Toni Morrison, or, you know, I mean, fortunately now, you know, our young people have so much to choose from, you know, in addition to like these like historical grades, like, you know, but yeah, like, so I think for me, a lot of, also too, like, social justice is important to my life. I'm an activist. I'm a prison abolitionist. I'm a police abolitionist. I've been resisting the police state since I've been very young. So like, even in my book, although it's like a Black girl love story, like it talks about all of these other themes of Black life that I think like young people are curious about. I know I was, and you know, I'm like, yeah, they want to talk about social justice. They want to talk about sex. They want to talk about shit that's pissing them off and emotional. They want to like acknowledge that the world is messed up and we should be sad about it. I'm sad about it too.
I know. And it leads us to our book of the day, right? And I think, as you said, so much is hitting within that. But the stars and the Blackness between them. First of all, I love that title. Like I'm someone that's really big about words. I love quotes. I love just any affirmations. And I think your title already kind of puts you in the space of like, wow, the stars and the Blackness between them. And so can you kind of tell us like what led to that title? Was it the title first, then the book, or the book, then the title? Like
the book, then the title. And yeah, to me, it's like, it just speaks to the divinity and the dignity of what it is to know Blackness. Like it's to know sort of like these cosmic burning stars and kind of like this limitless Blackness that is always, you know, unfurling and opening up, you know, like I really, I mean, I think about our history, you know, I think about like this Mahalia Jackson song actually about like, sometimes I wonder how I got over, you know, like I really look back and she's like, I look back and wonder how I got over, you know, And of course I can't sing like her, and I wouldn't put y'all through that. I was like, them's the lyrics. Google the song.
Look it up, look it up.
But yeah, but I really am like, look at Black people. Like, what would have happened to us if we never got interrupted by slavery?
Man.
Because what they did to us, and through slavery, what we did for ourselves through, this like total atrocity that is continuously a nightmare that people want to protect and reinstill. To me, I'm just like, man, look at us, man. We out here tap dancing. We out here Toni Morrison, and we out here freaking Serena, Williams in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much magic, that we bring. So I just feel like for me, the stars and the Blackness between them is like, came from a conversation I had with a relative, talking about some Black consciousness book. And something about melanin and the Blackness, the same Blackness in the, sky as the melanin in our skin. And I was like, run that by me one more time. I'm a writer. Just kidding. So yeah, it was, that's where it came from.
I love it. And so when you wrote this book, and first let me just say, I'm always public and just talking about, we as Black people are so beautiful and just so resilient, and so it's like we literally can make magic out of anything, right? Like, I think anything that we touch is magic. And I think the thing that I love most are books that celebrate that, because I think so many times we can have books that make us feel like it's something wrong with that magic. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that. But guess what? Everyone is trying to copy it. So nothing is wrong with it. It's just about you owning it. And so even when someone reads this book, which we're going to get to just some amazing parts to it, who are you talking to? Who are you hoping? And let me take it back. Who do you think you wrote this story for, and what are you hoping for when people read it that they learn about? Like, what was your aim for this book?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I want to answer not honestly, but answer like, yeah, what is the answer to that question? Because I think I certainly feel like a lot of authors like, yeah, I really feel like I wrote it to my younger self, maybe. I for sure did that. A book that I certainly needed. I certainly am offering it to all young people, like of all backgrounds and sexualities, for sure. And I certainly feel like for, Black kids and LGBTQ kids and elders, LGBTQ elders, because Whitney Houston is a big theme in my book. And she kind of came in like, these ancestors, they be like, listen, you paying attention? Good. I got something to say. And I really felt like everywhere I turned, Whitney Houston kept on showing up when I was first writing this book. And I was just like, and I don't know if, you're familiar with stories about her queerness, And it was the thing where I'm like, gosh, like, it's so obviously like, yeah, she's just like, there's a lot of beautiful, brilliant women who are queer like Whitney, and we never got to experience her full self. Like, what if she could have been with all kinds of lovers like Janelle Monáe, or, I feel like someone else out here, there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I love who I love. And I think like, I think about people like Luther Vandross. I think about, countless Black, queer, gay, lesbian artists who literally were the architects of soul and rock and roll, like, which about Little Richard. And it's just a part of, and even church, like a lot of, people who are like leaders within the church, leaders within movements are queer. And that doesn't get to be included, not even celebrated, but just included and respected. Like, yeah, that's just who you are. So I think for me in writing this book, I was like, yeah, Whitney just kept on being like, listen, girl, if any, you know me. And she's a Leo too. There's a huge, there's an astrology theme in this book. There's all these, there's this man on death row who's an astrologer. So there's all of these ways that astrology was such a huge sort of theme and guiding force as I wrote this. So yeah.
I love it. Well, we are going to, you all have a live reading from Ms. Junauda, and I'm so excited because it's an opportunity for us to just hear her words from her. Also, in the chat, I've already put the link for you to, as you're listening, to enter into the book raffle so you can get a copy of her book. And then secondly, it's an opportunity for you to pose questions or comments as we're talking. Anything you want to add to the conversation, do that at this time. Junauda, I actually want to pull out and it'll just be you on the screen. And once I tell you're done, and I'll come back. I want to enjoy your reading as well.
Yeah, and feel free to just like chat when I'm like 5 minutes away from like when we want to start questions or what have you.
Okay, I got you. All right, let's listen.
So this is the prologue for my book, The Stars and the Blackness Between Them. And it starts like this. We outsmarted oblivion 7 times in a row and made it look like jazz with no chains, like shaking our butt with no shame. We moonwalked past the ghosts of this living world. We decided to free ourselves out of the estranged strangling of this reality. We swan dived and centered in our magic. We found an eternal life that couldn't understand prisons or any other enslavement. We was not at the frequency that could catch or contort our souls. It wasn't easy, but destiny is destiny. Our bodies, levitated by the stardust of the ancestors in our bones. Our ecstasy got divined and limitless existence. This is how we figured it out. Heard on an echo of a breeze in a playground somewhere in the future, where kids is feeling free and they're double dutching, singing, gardening, and twerking in the radiance of their ancestors' laughter. So I'm just going to set up the scene, or, a scene I'm going to read from this book, and just share a little bit about the book's about. It's about these 2 Black girls, one from Trinidad and the Caribbean, and one from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And these girls, sort of are brought together unexpectedly one summer and become friends. And the girl from Trinidad is, sort of getting to know Minneapolis. She was born there, but moved to Trinidad when she was a baby. And her father is Black American, actually from Chicago. Chicago shouted out in this book. But she just doesn't know him like that. And so there's this another young woman, Mabel, who's kind of like a tomboy basketball playing Black girl. And she has an obsession with Whitney Houston. And her dad and her mom are like kind of these like cool down hip hop loving Black. Her mom is like a hippie kind of Erykah Badu vibe. And it's just like a really kind of cute family. And so anyways, the scene I'm going to read for y'all is from Mabel's chapter. So Mabel is the Black American teen. And just it's a little sort of moment reflecting on Whitney Houston, actually. Mabel is 16 years old, and I'm going to read now. I'm trying to sleep and I can't sleep. My belly hurts and my hips too. All I can do is lie in bed and think of young Whitney Houston from the 80s. I have her album Whitney next to my bed. I found it at the thrift store last week when I was there with my mama, and I've been sleeping next to Whitney every night ever since. My mom thinks it's cute since Whitney was her idol growing up, and she was inspired by her singing and style and stuff. But I feel like Whitney and I are connected in a special way for some reason. I have loved her since I was a kid, when my mom and I would play her greatest hits and dance to I Want to Dance with Somebody. At the part when Whitney says, "Don't you want to dance? Say you want to dance. Don't you want to dance?" Mama would pull my dad in. He would do his reliable and raggedy two-step, thinking he is killing the game, and she would be in her intricate Afro-modern hip-hop choreography, which is a lot of shoulder shimmying, lyric dancing, and old lady twerking. My mom can dance, though, for real, and she could always get my dad to just let go and be goofy. Anyway, I'm up staring at my ceiling in my memories and my feels as usual, listening to my quiet storm mix, as my dad calls it. It's all emo and soft music. Soon I'm thinking of Whitney and her fine self from back in the day again. She just had a lot of layers to her, which is a thing I think I like in people. Like Ursa and Jazzy. Even Terrell has layers. I like that sometimes Whitney was graceful and poised like a church lady, but she was really kind of wild and cray and straight hood too. I'm like that. I got a lot of layers too. But I think other kids think I'm just this whatever tomboy black girl who always reading or playing ball or working out or something. I basically fit in, which is okay, but sometimes I wish I felt comfortable to put my layers out there more. If I'm honest, part of my renewed curiosity is because recently I found out Whitney Houston fell in love with this other girl, Robin, when they was teens and working a summer job in New Jersey. I was just looking stuff up online and found some things about her rumored romance with her basketball player best friend, Robin. I don't know, but it just seems cool to know that she had this connection with this other girl and that the other girl was a beautiful basketball star and Whitney fell for her butt, called her the sister she never had. I feel that. I think I felt that way before with Ursa, my bestie. I felt that somewhat and in another kind of weird way with Jada, this girl from math. I read that when Whitney hit it big, Robin was her for real ride or die, that she became Whitney's assistant and her confidant and always had her back. For real, for real. They shared a huge apartment together that was bad and beautiful and was living that good life together. When I listened to I Want to Dance with Somebody after reading more about their connection, I imagine Whitney and Robin slow dancing in an icy and lit penthouse in the 80s, and it's all back in the day fresh. A world of windows looking over the city, lights and skyscrapers, black and white everything, with leather couches, a big sound system with mad tapes and CDs, glass tables, and a neon chandelier. Old school and tasteful. They are two black girls slow dancing, teen twin flames who loved each other, inseparable. I feel it. Anyway, some people deny it, but when I look at pictures of young Robin and Whitney and how they're smiling and close, a part of me thinks it's true. I just do. I can totally see Whitney loved her. She's cool and smooth, more swag than any of these cheesy Jerry curl dudes probably trying to push up on her. I also read that one time Robin also maybe whooped Bobby Brown's butt. I want to be like that. Smooth like Robin. Just a tender thug who Whitney would love. Maybe Robin was her true love. I wish she could have stayed with her if that's what she wanted, and they'd be in love forever. Maybe the world would have loved her if she was queer. I would have, no doubt. Whitney was an angel, and what if Robin could have been her bodyguard? Why did that basic white boy Kevin Costner with no swag have to save her? It should have been Robin's cool self. Ain't black women always saving everything anyway? Why can't we save Whitney? So that's a chapter, not a chapter, it's like a little bit of a chapter. Let me think. I have another part. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna read. How much more time do I have? I'm gonna read the Gemini poem. Okay, so how much, let me know how much time I got. Thank you. As I was sharing earlier, there's astrologer, thank you. There's an astrologer who's on death row who has written a book that the girls are reading in this book. It's a book within a book. You follow me? And it's called The Stars and the Blackness Between Them, like my book. And in it, he has all these astrology poems. So in honor of Jarima, I'm going to share the Gemini season poem. And I think it's really fitting, actually, based off the little bit I know about you. Gemini season. We was sister, teaching brother how to read by oil lamp and moonlight. Ancestors deprived of power over our own minds and bodies, multitasking in plain sight, singing blueprints to freedom while cutting cane and harvesting fields. We dream her in the library in the future. Mercury mind, silver tongue, with books under her arm from each section. Her mind can't drink enough. It flies low on every possibility, wants to know all of the knowledges stolen from her ancestors she ain't forgot. She lays on her stomach and reads till her back hurts. She runs the distance of her yard 7 times, the distance from past to future. She lays down and reads some more and remembers the ways that spirit flies through the night of mind, shape-shifting, seamless through duality. And she's one with her thoughts. She's whole in 2 parts. From my Gemini sister, Jerima. I'm going to read one more section, and this is from the perspective of Afua, which is the person who I mentioned on death row, who, Mabel starts reading his book. And so, he, was arrested and brought into prison at a young age. A lot of, young people a lot of young Black people experience the judicial system at some point. I also have taught in prisons and taught writing and really, have been so inspired by all of the tremendous writers who are incarcerated. And he certainly was inspired by, some of those spirits, as well as all of the actual Black activists and thinkers who I read as a young person who also had experienced imprisonment. Ancestor Song for the Brokenhearted. As a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. My mom, dad, brothers, and I used to go to the top of our apartment building on 143rd Street and look through a big telescope that my dad found at a pawn shop downtown. On a clear night, our family would take this telescope, our dinner, and a boombox up to the roof, and we would take turns looking at the stars and planets and moon while we listened to tapes by Smokey Robinson, Chaka Khan, Earth, Wind and Fire, and John Coltrane, and others. I used to love it so much, I never wanted to go back inside. I was so obsessed. My mom got me a book all about astronauts in space, planets and stars for my 9th birthday. In the book, I was inspired seeing the women and men in NASA in orange suits hover in tight and orderly space. They would travel in space capsules and shuttles with dials, buttons, and levers that they knew how to use to command the travel of these vessels through the last frontier. They could watch our planet Earth floating in the distance, suspended in an expanse of quiet blackness. Our planet seemed inherently gentle when viewed from space, a rounded, smooth, and gentle Eden, innocently hovering in galactic murkiness. Maybe as a kid, I subconsciously thought distance would make my heart grow fonder of the life I had. The reality of our planet, my hood, could get fuzzier and more tender the more distant I got in my spaceship. Home on Earth was Harlem, glory of creative Blackness and revelation that in the 70s and 80s of my childhood became depressed and embattled, transformed from a tight communities of Black folks into a province of suffering under broken dreams and high unemployment. Many of our families were susceptible to the escape, violence, and enterprise of crack cocaine, and my dad devastatingly succumbed to this addiction. My mom, brothers, and I were drained in the mayhem of his jonesing. Stuff we loved, including the telescope, disappeared, and his gentle nature mutated into the anxiety of addiction. I saw my mom try to love and be united with the man who was shackled to his own destruction. My brothers and I all coped in our own way. I mainly escaped to the streets and to my best friend James's house. But more than one thing can be true. And all of that heavy, I still remember times when my dad would be clean, and home was a place that was filled with the love of our parents and the cacophony of our joy and laughter. I understood from an early age that people have many sides and aspects to them. And as I have grown older, I have been grateful for astrology in helping me love and see my dad and mom in their complexity and cosmology. On death row, in some ways, I feel like I did become the astronaut of my childhood aspirations. I live suspended, distant, and hyper aware of all existence. I'm alien yet affiliated, living like a satellite, away from all that I've ever known. I know more about human life now that I've moved my research on planetary existence from the streets of Harlem and Philadelphia to my Spartan spaceship of 4 cement walls, steel commode, and a cot. The space travelers of my felonious legion are drafted from our streets, vulnerable and afraid, some innocent, some guilty, all trained and broken in the system. We are sensitive scientists of the soul who stumble into a laboratory of the self we can't figure out how to escape. We spend our days rereading our star maps, trying to understand how we ended up at this unintended destination. The solitude of these walls allows us the time to explore the vastness inside of us in ways that our survival on planet Earth never could. I don't glorify this irony. So that is the reading.
Beautiful. I'm just sitting here like, oh, this is so wonderful.
Oh, I'm glad you dig it.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. I just love it. I love it. You know, yes, thank you. Thank you for reading. Was it difficult? So we're getting towards the end, and I was reading comments. People are enjoying your reading, so thank you so much. Was it difficult? Was it difficult to get your first book published? Because this is your first one, right?
Yeah, it is. Yes and no. You know, like I think that, and I had been writing the book for a while before. I just happened to have a conversation with a friend of mine who, you know, believed in the work and, you know, had a connection to somebody, but that person happened to, so it kind of like the end of the process kind of moved fast. But yeah, I think it is kind of difficult to get, yeah, like I kind of had to show and prove, you know, like, all right, here's these chapters, there was interest, and then I had to prove that I could actually write a book. So like once I was able to prove that by writing more chapters, because I had a concept and a couple chapters and an outline, but I didn't have a book yet. So like I really had to, yeah. So I think like I was fortunate to like meet an editor who really was interested and respected the book, and I felt like would allow me to write the book I wanted to write. So yeah, so I feel like I was fortunate that I had a pretty positive experience.
And you know, the reason I asked because I interview both published and self-published authors. And so for many, I know trying to break over from being a self-published to a published author can be a very difficult, you know, process, especially just like you said, being connected and being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And I think for some people I've heard stories of years, and others is like, actually, it just kind of happened. You know what I mean? And so it sounds like that may have been for you. Like it just, things just kind of,
yeah, I was writing it before I realized I was publishing it. Like my thing was like, I do a lot of art. I have like countless ideas. Like I have a lot of Gemini in my chart as well. So like ideas, thoughts, ideas. I can't sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night, have to write something down. Yes. So to me, I just was like, oh, this is one of several projects I'm like excited about. But just all the things came in line for me to actually focus on the book and complete it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, how did it feel winning the Coretta Scott? I mean, for this book, like being your first book, like that's major.
It was huge. I was supposed to go to Chicago for it, and I was so sad that like, because it was supposed to be like a Chicago like church. They're like, my editor is like, oh my God, everybody tries to get tickets to the Coretta Scott King because it's like a mixture between an award ceremony and a church service. And I said, bring me to the but then it was like COVID happened.
Oh man.
Okay, so but erase that part. The beauty. Okay, so that was like one of the best experiences. Like I was like sleeping, and I remember the day before, my editor's like, if you get a call from a strange number early in the morning, pick it up. And I was like, okay, whatever. And not whatever, but I was like, okay. He's like, it might be the Coretta Scott. I kind of believe that you will win it. And I was like, okay. I'm cool if I just was like, whatever. If I get it, cool. If I don't, like, I kind of just let myself forget it. And then literally 6 something in the morning, I got a phone call and I was like, is this my mama? It's either my mama or it's something else. And I called and I was like, this woman is like, hi, is this Junauda Petrus? And it was like, we're calling from the like American Library or whatever it is exactly that, you know, selects the Coretta Scott King Award. And, you know, we're here to let you know you've been, you know, selected as the Coretta Scott King Award. And I was like, and then all these librarians are like clapping. And I was like,
in the background?
Yes.
At 6 in the morning?
because they do this whole award ceremony. Like, I had no idea. You know, like us growing up, you know, you see these like medals on things, and I don't know where these medals come from, who give it to people. But I was like totally like, I mean, I loved Coretta Scott King books growing up. I loved, you know, the legacy, obviously, of the King family, and, you know, the ways that, you know, obviously as a Black person, so much of my sort of Black consciousness was shaped by their legacy. So it felt particularly special that it was a Coretta Scott King award, you know, like, I was like, yeah, put that medallion on my, it's like, put that medallion on me. Okay?
That is so awesome. So even in hearing that, you all, which is so inspiring, what advice would you have for aspiring writers?
I would say just write with joy, write a lot, write to yourself. Don't think about an audience. Just think about what I think is a thing. You know, I think that when you become more of a seasoned writer, people will talk about your voice, like focus on your writer's voice, you know, which isn't a thing you can focus on. It's kind of a you allow to emerge and you listen for, you know, like I think for me, a lot of my friends who read my books are like, Junauda, I heard you in the book, you know, because a lot of it is your own voice. A lot of it is how you love words. Like, I'm sure for you, there's certain, you know, I know for me, there are certain rappers I liked as a young person up to this day. Like, there's certain flows, there's certain vibes, there's certain rhythms, there's certain, like, you know, cadences. I love poetry. I think, like, write all kinds of things. Like, if you're a fiction writer, try writing poetry. If you're an essayist, try writing, you know, a short story. Like, because if you're like a poet, try screenwriting, you know, like I think for me, I just have ideas and I just write all kinds of things. So I think like, as an aspiring writer, just write a lot, read a lot, you know, find a community of people who, you know, can read your work that you trust, you know, like don't share it with your friend who's like, girl, this restaurant I went to look like, no, like if they are having, like, if they're a person that's just not, you know, critical. Exactly. I think some people really are like, oh, be, you know, blunt. Not if you're a beginning writer. Like, have people who can actually affirm your voice, empower you. Like, if you have a critical friend, like, or I don't know, like, I think like there's also ask for what you want. Like, I think sometimes when we get feedback, it's kind of like people just kind of think of it as a carte blanche, you know, but I think really to be like, yeah, like I want to ask about the dialogue. Do you think the dialogue is relatable? Do you think the plot starts quick enough? Like, so those are kind of some of the advice I give. And then publishing will happen, but the best writing you can make will make your publishing experience, you know, that much more empowered, because when you are working with editors and stuff like that, you want to know what your voice is. You want to know the story you want. And you know your voice. And if they push back, you'll be like, well, nah, that's me. You know what I mean? So.
Exactly. I love it. So I always love asking this. What's next? What's next in your career? Like, I know you do so much. So we were kind of joking about that earlier. Like, what's next? Not necessarily as an author, but just overall, like what is something that we should be on the lookout from you within the next whatever time frame you want to set?
Yeah, I'm like totally gung-ho to be a screenwriter and be adapting this book into a film, to be writing shows, to be a showrunner, to be, you know, a lot of my writing comes from being a performance artist, you know, and a dancer. So I miss doing performance art. I've been, actually, I put out this project that I'm going to be doing a little event tomorrow night. I think I'm so bad with social media. I avoid it. And then I'm like, wait a minute, people need to know what's happening.
Right.
I'm so afraid. But it's on my Facebook. But I've been working on this project called the Erotics of Abolition. And all of it has just been my kind of reflections on being an activist, being anti-police state, you know, revolutionary, radical, whatever you call it. And also wanting to like soften and deepen and be sensual in my body the older I get as a Black woman. That so much of my life has been in resistance and in protection. And I want to be supple, and I want to like sort of blossom into that as an aspect of my activism and transformation. So, I've been doing like, some film stuff and some writing and essays. So, what else am I working on? Oh, I have one more thing I wanted to read to y'all. Do
Yeah,
you
come
want
on.
one more thing? Okay.
Come
And this
on.
is because I have a children's book coming out, and it's based off of this poem about could we please give the police departments to the grandmothers? Have you heard of that poem?
I have not. Please tell me about this poem.
Yeah. So I wrote it around the time that I started writing this book. I wrote this poem. And so anyways, it's going to be a children's book. I could read it to you. Is that okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. And then, we can close up.
Yeah.
Could we please give the police departments to the grandmothers? Give them the salaries and the pensions and the city vehicles, but make them a fleet of vintage Corvettes, Jaguars, and Cadillacs with white leather interior, diamond in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with the gangsta lean. Let the cars be badass. You would hear the old school jams like Patti LaBelle, Anita Baker, Al Green. You would hear Sweet Honey and the Rock harmonizing on We Who Believe in Freedom Will Not Rest, bumping out the speakers. And they got the booming system. If you up to mischief, they will pick you up swiftly in their sweet ride and look at you until you catch shame and look down at your lap. She asks if you're hungry. You say yes, and of course you are. She got a crown of dreadlocks, and on the dashboard, you see brown faces like yours, shea buttered and loved up. And there are no precincts, just love temples that got spaces to meditate and eat delicious food, mangoes, blueberries, nectarines, yams, greens, okra, pecan pie, salad, lemonade, things that make your mouth water and soul arrive. All the hungry bellies know warmth. All the children expect love. The grandmas help you with homework, practice yoga with you, and teach you how to make jambalaya and coconut cake from scratch. When you wildin' out because your heart is broke or you don't have what you need, the grandmas take your hand and lead you to their gardens. You can lay down amongst their flowers, her grasses, roses, dahlias, eggplants, blackberries. She wants you to know that you're safe and protected, universal, limitless, sacred, sensual, divine, and free. Grandma is the original warrior, wild since birth, comfortable in loving fiercely. She has fought so that you don't have to, not in the same ways at least. So give the police departments to the grandmas. They're fearless, classy, and actualized. Blossom from love. They wear what they want and they say what they please. Believe that. There wouldn't be noise citations when the grandmas ride through our streets, playing all that good music. The kid's gonna hula hoop to it and sell her lemonade made from heirloom pink lemons and maple syrup. The car is solar powered and carbon footprintless. The grandmas designed the technology themselves. At night, they park the cars in a circle so all can sit with them with the sunroofs down and look at the stars, talk about astrological signs, what to plant tomorrow based on the moon's mood, and help you memorize Audre Lorde and James Baldwin quotes. She always looks you in the eye and acknowledges the light in you with no hesitation or fear. She sees the pain in our bravado, the confusion in our anger, the depth behind our coldness. Grandma knows what oppression has done to our souls and is going to change it one love temple at a time. She has no fear.
That is so, and that's going to be a children's book? Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see the illustrations.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. There's an illustrator that I really hope we get. I can't say who it is. Okay. Say no. What I need them to say yes. But I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'm about to get some books. So like, hit me up when they drop. Like Junauda, I will get you some books. Like I will make sure my publisher sends y'all books for free and y'all can distribute.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. So much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll actually tell my editor that now. So that's the thing that will be in the works.
Awesome. So this is the time where we definitely need to continue to follow you. How can people stay in touch? At the bottom, I have her Instagram and website. I told you. We come ready, Junauda. Okay, we come ready.
Chicago comes ready, and I need to stay ready for Chicago.
Man, I have to share this. Someone put when you read that, This sounds like a grandma from Wakanda. I love it.
Oh, someone said it sounded like a grandma from Wakanda. I just like that.
I love it. So I know you mentioned your Facebook. That I did not put on here. So can you mind saying like that?
Yeah, it's Junauda Petrus Nassau. So just my name. Everything is my name. My name is fortunately unique, so there's not Junaudas. Although there was a dress called the Junauda dress that instead of a U was an I from some random website. I was like, y'all got a dress almost my name. But besides that, you'll just see me if you look me up.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say, Junauda, this has been a joy. Do you come to Chicago? Have you been to Chicago before?
I love Chicago. I was supposed to come to Chicago. But no, I love Chicago. Yeah. So yeah, y'all invite me. Like I don't know. I know some really dope activists actually. Do you know Charlene Carruthers?
I don't.
Yeah, she's dope. She's another tremendous writer. She wrote a book called Unapologetic. I have it right there behind something. But yeah, she's great. Yeah.
So, wow. Okay.
Yeah, she's dope. She's, a tremendous activist. But yeah, I think anytime y'all want me, once the, virus is done, like we'll just, I'm gonna have reason to come to Chicago anyway. So we could just piggyback
coordinate that. And I have to come your way. What's in Minneapolis? Like what could we do there? What's going on there?
Girl, we trying to build back the city after all this mayhem. So there's that. But biking, I love to bike.
Okay.
I love biking. So we bike, go by the lakes, get ice cream, get some seafood, just chill.
That's awesome.
I love to eat. So
I love to eat too. So we're gonna work this out. And then Chicago, that's what we do. That's what we do.
I love food in Chicago, man. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yes, thank you all.
Yes. Take care, love.
All right, thank you so much. Take care. We'll be in touch.
Yes, indeed.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.